Hello, I am Beck. Welcome to my channel. Today I'll be drawing a D&D character based on the roll of the dice.
Let's bring out the Tower of Destiny!
So we have an Air Genasi Rogue. So Genasi, if you are not familiar, are descendants of genies in the D&D universe. There are different ones based around what sort of elemental plane they are from. This one's obviously from the elemental plane of air, and they're said to have traits of their otherworldly ancestors and can draw upon their connection to the winds. An Air Genasi skin tone can be blue, along with a full range of human skin tones, or with ashen casts, so very much kind of the colors that clouds can be, but then also if you'd rather have them look a little bit more human, then you can have it in any of the human skin colors as well. I usually make mine kind of bluish, just because, you know, for the funsies. Sometimes their skin is marked by lines that seem like cracks with bluish white energy spilling out. I haven't done an Air Genasi like this before. I have done a Fire Genasi having a sort of a lava coal skin that has cracks of glowing stuff coming out of it, but maybe next time I'll draw an Air Genasi that way. Their hair is described as, their hair might blow in a phantom wind or be made entirely out of clouds or vapor. So I think the latter is more fun to draw, so I usually default to having cloud-like hair. But I could just, because you can draw any character's hair blowing in the wind, that's just like a scenic choice. So just having it always blowing in the wind, it's fun to imagine that it's always like that, but if you're just drawing a character still, then having their hair blow in the wind doesn't really have the kind of cinematic effect that it would in a movie or in life. Not real life, obviously, imaginary life. Some of the traits that you get if you are playing as an Air Genasi are unending breath, which means you can hold your breath indefinitely while you're not incapacitated. Lightning resistance, which means you have resistance to lightning damage, and mingle with the wind. So you can learn a few different spells with mingle with the wind. It's you know the shocking grasp cantrip. At 3rd level you can cast featherfall. At 5th level you can cast levitate, and I think it's just once per day or once per long rest. I think that's all you get with Mingle with the Wind, but those are pretty great spells all by themselves, so that's pretty good. And I did decide to use Levitate in my drawing. I kind of did some artistic interpretation and had Levitate where the character is actually kind of standing on their own conjured clouds. Usually Levitate, you're just levitating, but I wanted to depict it in a more fun way, so that's what I did. Part of the reason that I did decide to have them using levitate while in this picture was because levitate would mean that you're not making any sound while you're moving across a room, and that's very important when you are a rogue, because rogues are the sneaky clever class of D&D. I decided to have her, for a start. I'm gonna call her Jacinta. Jacinta is a thief, so I've chosen the roguish archetype of thief, which is basically just the subclass of the rogue class. In the thief archetype, it says, you hone your skills in the larcenous arts. Burglars, bandits, cut purses, and other criminals typically follow this archetype, but so do rogues who prefer to think of themselves as professional treasure seekers, explorers, delvers, and investigators. In addition to improving your agility and stealth, you learn skills useful for delving into ancient ruins, reading unfamiliar languages, and using magic items you couldn't normally employ. Now, that means that the traits that you get in this subclass include things like, at 3rd level, you use something called Fast Hands. So you use the bonus action granted by your cunning action to make a dexterity sleight of hand check. Use your thieves' tools to disarm a trap or open a lock, or take the use an object action. You also have a trait called Second Story Work. When you choose this archetype at 3rd level, you gain the ability to climb faster than normal. Climbing no longer costs you extra movement. In addition, when you make a running jump, the distance you cover increases by a number of feet equal to your dexterity modifier. There's another one that you get called Supreme Sneak. Now, it doesn't start until 9th level, but it means you have advantage on stealth checks if you move no more than half your speed on the same turn. You get another one at 13th level, so that's getting pretty high now, called Use Magic Device. By 13th level, you have learned enough about the workings of magic that you can improvise the use of items even when they are not intended for you. You ignore all class, race, and level requirements on the use of magic items. And the final one you get when you are in the Thief subclass is called Thieves' Reflexes. When you reach 17th level, which is very high, you become adept at laying ambushes and quickly escaping danger. You can take 2 turns during the first round of any combat. You take your first turn at your normal initiative and your second turn at your initiative -10. You can't use this feature when you are surprised. So altogether, that makes for a lot of fun for our character here. Looking at our stats, we have a +1 to strength, a +1 to dex, 0, so average for constitution, +3 to intelligence, so a very intelligent woman, a +1 to wisdom, so she's better than average at reading people, and a -2 for charisma. So I don't think she's particularly intimidating or charming. The +1 for strength and dexterity, I think, has just come from experience in the trade or on the job. So dexterity is needed for pickpocketing, it's needed for nimble fingers, and particularly disarming traps. So in the life of an adventurer, if you have some good dexterity, that's very useful when it comes to, first you have to find a trap. So I think that's either intelligence or wisdom, depending on what you're rolling to find them. And then to disarm them, you would need a good roll for dexterity, and the difficulty would vary depending on the complexity of the trap. Usually it's the DM's discretion as to what the difficulty level of any particular role in that area is. So if it was something like the sort of typical one you see in a lot of shows where it's just a loop on the ground, it's like trying to catch a rabbit hunting, that one would probably be a quite simple trap to disarm. So that would probably be like a DC 5, and it would be pretty easy to do that. You'd probably, like with the +1, you'd need to have roll a 4 or lower to fail that ability to disassemble that trap. Whereas you might find one that's been created by more of an artificer type person, where there's a lot of elements to it, and it's got booby traps among booby traps, and that might be a DC 20, so you need to roll a 19 or higher to pass that one. But I digress. Her highest is intelligence and her lowest is charisma, so I think in terms of personality, this is a very book smart, very plan-oriented person. She can read people, but she certainly doesn't rely on people. I think that she's very much the make the plan, double check the plan, look at all the logistics, memorize all the maps, and then implement the plan kind of person. As far as why she would join an adventuring party, I think it would have to be very much an Ocean's 11 kind of situation where whatever she's trying to steal requires a full team. And she would probably be looking for the other players to have very distinctive skills that she does not have and that she needs in order to implement this plan. I don't know that she would necessarily be willy-nilly answering like job postings on like the board in a tavern or something like that. I think she is the kind of person who decides what she wants to do and then goes through with creates a plan, and she's the one who posts job ads on the tavern wall. She's the one who needs help with something. And then she would have a whole interview process and things like that, which could be very fun to play if this is your like session 0 maybe with players, or even in the first session if you want to play it that way, having one of the players at the table essentially interviewing candidates that include the other players but are not limited to the other players, where the DM might introduce some competition for each of the players where the players have to justify why they would be a better fit for the team. And it would be also a fun twist if this character decided to go a different way for one or more of the players, and then the DM has to kind of mold the story to explain why the chosen players either can't or won't be participating, and she has to default back to the players at the table, the ones she didn't actually want to go on an adventure with. You could argue that that is a little bit of railroading, but there is a certain amount of railroading that is necessary in order to keep the game fun. I've heard too many DMs in forums and things worry about railroading their characters and not giving them enough choice, because there is a fine line between just telling a story to a table of people who occasionally roll dice and allowing the whole table to tell the story. And the part of the DM is essentially to like give you enough options that you have a sense of control over the path that the story takes, but not so much freedom that the players don't know what they're doing and don't know where to go from here and don't know like where the fun is. Like if you just say, oh, you're in a tavern, what do you want to do? It does create this sort of awkward feeling of like, well, I don't know, what have you planned? What direction should I go in that will result in the most fun for me? As opposed to if the DM says you're in a tavern, you notice a small girl crying in the corner, and then they give you no further information. You can choose to not talk to her, and then the DM's job is to think of a different way to give you a story hook. Or a lot of the players who are looking to have fun will instantly be like, oh, I go and talk to her, or I pick a fight with her, or I shout, where is this child's parents? What's she doing in a tavern? All the various things you can do in response to the hook for the game. But it doesn't mean that you have to do anything. So that's my 2 cents on the DMing railroading situation. And I think we are about done here. Yeah, this is Jacinta the Air Genasi Rogue, who's a little bit of a control freak, but that's why we love her. What do you think? What do you think of this one? I like how the clouds worked out that she's walking on to keep her levitating above the ground. If you like this video, please subscribe and like and notify and all that blah 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 blah. And thank you for watching. I hope you had a really great week and have a really great week going forward. and I will catch you next time. Bye!